All right. Another week, another video, another bit of training. And now that we've kind of got the wheels rolling, the big focus is almost exclusively, at least in my mind, about maintaining momentum. So that's what we're going to get into on this one. And just momentum's just a hard thing to do. Like I tell people all the time, the step from 0 to 1 is the hardest one. Because everything after that has an ounce of momentum behind it, assuming you don't give that away. So that's where we're at right now. Things are starting to feel better. Things are starting to click. Habits are getting put into place. Now it's my job to preserve and build the momentum that I've already gotten to help keep this path on track. And so that's what we're going to get into now.
All right. My number one primary strategy, maintaining momentum, it's go and find and be open to enthusiasm about what you're doing, regardless of how close it is to the final goal. It's like you need to be willing to be excited, celebrate yourself. I'm not talking about having a full-on rager because you ran a mile, but I just call it go ahead and let yourself catch a case of the fuck yes. Find that fuck yeah moment and build on that. Be excited about that. Me and my buddy Tyler, we just finished up my first 60-minute run since I've been rebuilding my running. Obviously, I've run an hour before. If you run a marathon slow enough, you can accumulate a ton of hours of running. I've done that. So it's not like it's my first hour, but it's the first time since I've been back, and I could write that off and then dismiss it, or I can let myself catch a case of the fuck yes. I know that this is going to matter in a year, that I got over the hump now instead of tomorrow, instead of on Wednesday, instead of next week. And that alone is worth a little bit of acknowledgement. And finding these little bits of enthusiasm also helps you understand what you enjoy about what you're doing. And that's going to help you a lot with bigger goals, because a part of any bigger goal and the problems you're going to be solving with that is going to include things that you're not going to be as enthusiastic about, plain and simple. So like I said, strategy number one, go catch a case of the fuck yes.
All right, so we're going to get into the next strategy that I actively look to for myself and encourage others to implement when they are putting something new into play. And that's just understand you're going to be tinkering and playing around with your schedule. If not, what's likely to happen is we're going to attempt to hammer a round peg into a square hole. That sort of scenario comes into play. Like, for example, I just got back into running. I'm 4 runs. So that's 4 extra workouts, hour at least, that I need to make time for in the week. And I'm I'm trying to balance it with my lifting, because I'm not giving that up. I'm very committed to sticking with the hybrid thing. And even though running is the A slot right now. But so we want to work on building all that sort of stuff, because one, it needs to work. If we continue to hammer that round peg into the square hole, we're eventually going to stop. Plain and simple. The other piece of the puzzle that I think makes this a good, one, to just understand going in, but 2, to be very engaged in, is the fact that it kind of microdoses engagement at times other than just running. That's what a lot of these behaviors I think are really good for, is I can engage in my running, the 4 times a week, the hour and a half at a time, but I have all these other little things now. So as I'm one of those things being tinkering with my schedule, that's going to keep me engaged in that process, and it's going to continue to make it work better. And that's more things that I'm doing to vote yes for this, which makes it more likely that I'm going to stick with it. So for example, going into changing gears from fighting to running, my lifting schedule was typically Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, and then Friday or Saturday for a 4th lift. My training fit in where it fit in, with classes and private sessions with my coach. And that worked out really well for that. Now, with running, I realized about 2 weeks in, okay, this isn't working as well, both from a time management standpoint as well as an energy management standpoint. So what I tried to do when I was, getting to running is I would lift. I do lower, upper with my training. And so I typically have to lower lift on Monday, and then I've got some time on Monday, late morning, afternoon, early afternoon, and I would go and run. Okay, that's typically going to be one of my least intense runs of the week because I'm pairing that up with that low body lift. I would probably not run on Tuesday. Look to run on Wednesday or Thursday, and then between Friday, Saturday, Sunday, find it, which I did okay with, but not great. So now we've, through a couple iterations of the lifting schedule now we're going, Monday morning is going to be a lower lift. Monday afternoon is going to be a run. And that's going to vary which run this is between our two easy runs, our long easy run, and a speed workout. It's not going to be a speed workout after lifting legs. If I'm going to do that, I'm doing it the other way. Tuesday is going to be an upper lift and a little bit of time to kind of catch up, recover. Today is in fact Tuesday actually. I went and played disc golf this afternoon as well. Get me some movement in, get the legs working, but not working. Tomorrow being Wednesday, I'm no longer going to lift low body in the morning. I'm going to go run in the morning. And actually, initially, I was then just going to run on Thursday morning. We tried that out. What we're going to try this week is run Wednesday morning and then lift low body in the afternoon on Wednesday to give me the most recovery time between my last low body session into my run. And Wednesdays will typically be either a a speed run. It's going to be one of my more demanding runs because, again, I'm stacking that recovery time. I will then lift again on Friday afternoon to get my fourth lift, be an upper lift. I will probably, just based on schedule, it's unlikely I'm going to be doing a lot of Friday running. Backtrack a little bit. I skipped Thursday. Thursday morning, I'm still going to keep my habit of getting up, going to the gym, but it's going to be a recovery session, get the sauna going, and get some longer sauna sessions in. And I'm going to get into the sauna and all that at a different time, but I plan to incorporate a lot of sauna going forward with this prep. I think it's a really, really valuable tool, especially for the type of stuff that I'm doing and the elevation that I don't live at and the elevation that I'm planning on running at. So tinker with the schedule. Understand that's going to be a piece of the puzzle, and understand, again, it's a micro dose of engagement. So now I'm just going to go play with my dog for a little bit and make dinner. All right, back at the track. It is actually early. This kind of looks late to me in the background. This looks pretty cool. But the reason it looks like this is sometime in the next 6 or so hours, it's going to start raining. It is Wednesday morning on the early side, and it's pretty much not going to stop raining until Sunday night at some point. So it's about to be real wet here for a real long time. Luckily, I'm about to get all my two harder runs done, and I'll only have a couple of time on feet bias runs left, a little bit shorter. So if I got to go treadmill, I got to go treadmill, or if I want to get wet, I can go get wet. Cool. So last little bit, I was just talking about, tinkering with the schedule and playing around with it. Today's an example of the first time I'm trying out the schedule that I lined up. So we're going to see how that works. We're going to plan to adjust. We're going to continue to plan to adjust. But the next bit about maintaining momentum is continuing this idea of just micro dosing exposure to your thing versus drinking from the fire hose or only running if I'm running. It's find other supporting things. And this is where I like to use what they call habit stacking from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you're unfamiliar, if anything I ever say sounds neat, it's like something you want to explore, that's a book for you. Atomic Habits is fantastic. But anyway, he calls it habit stacking. It's taking things you're already doing and adding habits that you want and tying them to the things you're already good at. And so one of the big ways, again, I believe, to keep momentum going on a new goal, new habit, new this, that, or the other, is to attach supporting things. So for example, running is the new thing. There's running. There is recovery work. There is nutrition, there is sleep, there is these sorts of things that I can go do to support that. And again, what that does is it continues to microdose exposure and microdose some amount of like novelty to it. You know, again, if I'm just running this track, these circles, those lines, it gets really monotonous, and it can be really easy to be like, ah, fuck it, and be done with it. So I like to stack habits. So like, you know, I'm diving in on the nutrition right now, working on the protein and all these other little bits. And so plan a couple things. You don't need to rewire your life. Let's take a few things that you do and let's add a habit or adjust a habit to continue to support that, to keep you engaged in this thing that you want to become normal. And that's the big key, is like eventually all of this becomes normal. I'm less than a month into this buildup. So let's go hit this run. It's gonna be, we're hitting our speed workout today. And then, yeah, we can go run. To wrap this up, I'm gonna bring the last strategy I personally try to implement when I'm trying to build and foster momentum, and that is have an organizational system of some sort. What I have behind me is far more intricate than the base level, but I use this. This is an example of how I use to direct my energy, to kind of help me make decisions on what to work on. Being self-employed, it's really easy to do a lot of nothing. And this has been something that really helps me out. I've got primary goals. I've got things that need to happen to acquire or achieve whatever that is. I've got the habits that go into it, and then I've got my successes. Now, it doesn't need to be anywhere close to this elaborate. You don't need a big whiteboard. You don't need any of that, but you do need to do something, and it's not wildly dissimilar from talking about just having other like small micro doses of that goal, like with nutrition to support your running and recovery and sleep, and having, you know, implementing these little habits. This is kind of a 1A off of that, to be honest. But more than anything, you need to have some semblance of an organizational system to help keep you on track, because there's going to be a lull. You know, to use myself as a case study, I'm an amputee. At a certain point with running, something's going to happen and I'm not going to be able to wear my leg for a few days, and it's going to throw things off. It's going to sway momentum. It is going to give me an excuse to do nothing. With this particular organizational system for me, I give away that excuse to do nothing, because this tells me all the other things. This is me planning out all the other things I can do. This doesn't say under a 50-mile race, it isn't just run, 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 and run. There's other pieces of that puzzle. There's other goals. And so that is why I think an organizational system can go really far for you. Plus, eventually you're going to find the thing that works best for you through a lot of tinkering and trying. And that is what in the end, we're looking for a system, because whatever goals are on here, I don't think those goals are going to be on here in 5 years. And if they have, I haven't done a very good job at the plan. So, like I said, find yourself some semblance of an organizational system that directs your energy towards your goals. And this, again, when bumps in the road comes in, they become built-in strategies to fix that. So to bring this whole thing into a wrap, getting started is one thing, and getting off the blocks is very hard. It's very hard to get off the blocks again. And that's why to me, it's so important to pay attention to your momentum instead of asking for it to happen on accident. So that's why I think this video is very important. That's why I'm putting this out there in terms of like what has helped me create success for myself, helped me create forward progress. And for somebody like myself who gets very good at not seeing their progress, these are things that really help me not be too hard on myself. Once I establish a baseline, I have a tendency to not view that as progress anymore. And the reality is that is massive progress. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are like that, and we have a tendency to derail ourselves when we don't let ourselves be enthusiastic because, well, we should have done that. Well, it's still really good that we did it. And It's a whole lot better to be stoked about what you're doing than not, always. That's why it's important to be willing to tinker with your schedule and play around with stuff and be experimenting. So again, so we don't try to force a dead end. We become good at the pivot and it becomes normal to pivot and a part of our baseline. It's not a failure. It's a success to create those pivots, find those points of performance. And again, just building in the habits to support yourself because you're going to need them. And then again, having your organizational system. So that's what we've got this week. Really excited about the next one because I'm getting very close to knowing and being able to announce. Nobody cares. It's not a secret, but it's just not set in stone yet. So I don't want to put it out. But we're very close to my first trail race. And if this comes to fruition, it's going to be very freaking cool. But it's also going to put a couple more demands on my training, especially as the fact that I am pursuing a sport that's going to put me in a lot of altitude and I live at sea level. So until next time, like, comment, subscribe, ask your mom to watch. Please and thank you.